Correctional Center. Today is Wednesday, September 13th, 2023. The time is 8:45 a.m. The staff there at, please introduce yourself to the record.
Good morning, Donnie Bardlaw, Warden.
Priscilla Wong, classification.
Joe Buttress, Assistant Warden.
Lawton Searcy Program Manager.
Okay, good morning. We are going to be just a moment. We're trying to get some folks in the room, some folks who are here with us at headquarters. They're bringing them in now. Let me recognize the folks who are on Zoom. We have Mr. Nordyke at the Parole Project. Are you counsel, Mr. Nordyke?
Yes, ma'am. I'm counsel. I'm not appearing on behalf of the Parole Project.
Okay, thank you. Let me correct that. So would you enter your name in the record, please? I apologize. We have Mr. Kerry Myers with the Parole Project, Gary Walker and Wayne Murphy. Here with us in opposition, we have Jesse Murdoch, Lionel Noten, or Naughton, I'm sorry. Noten, Ava Noten, Kevin Noten, who will be speaking on behalf of the family, Samuel Noten, Catrice Stevens, Lakeisha Noten, Florence Celestine, and Donna Celestine. She will also be speaking in opposition. Mr. Hayes, would you introduce yourself for the record, your name and DOC number, please?
Darrin H DOC.
All right, Mr. Hayes, you appeared before the pardon board in 2018. This process is similar. So I'll read some identifying information into the record and we'll get started with the interview process. So,
Madam Chair,
yes.
Madam Chairman, there is he has indicated that he has family that is on the way here to the facility. So if they do walk in during the hearing, we'll introduce them or notify you at that point.
Okay, well, great. Thank you very much. Are they on the ground yet?
No, ma'am, not our understanding. They haven't made it to the ground yet.
Okay. All right. Mr. Hayes, you're classified as a third felony offender, currently serving a 99-year sentence for first-degree robbery. You were sentenced 1993 in St. Mary Parish. You have a 1994 conviction in Orleans Parish for second-degree murder. You were seen, as I mentioned, by the pardon board in 2018. You received a favorable recommendation that your sentence be commuted to 99 years with parole eligibility after serving 30 years. That was signed by the governor on May 17th, 2023. Is that information correct, Mr. Hayes?
Yes, ma'am.
Your case this morning has been assigned to Mrs. Wise. Would you answer her questions?
Good morning.
Good morning, Ms. Wise.
How's it going?
It's all right, Ms. Wise.
All right.
How you-
All right. It was this has been a long time in coming. You
Yes,
granted, and then the governor signed your clemency on May 17th of 2023. Tell us what you want us to know about. How long you been in prison first? Tell us how long you've been in prison on this charge.
29 years,
29 years. And how old are you today?
57.
You're age 57. Okay. You do, I'm just saying for the record, you do have a low tiger. What is your trustee status today? Are you a trustee?
Yes, ma'am. Minimum 3.
Okay. How long you been there?
But this 23, I got here in 12. I got that in 15 since 2015.
So you never lost trustee status when you earned it?
No, I received my first trustee status in Angola. I had a trustee status in Angola before I got here, but I ain't never lost.
Okay. All right. Because your last write-up was in 2015. And you have 17 DBs in this 29 years. That's commendable. So just say for the record, some of the accomplishments, the top 3 things that you've done in these 29 years. in the institution?
Well, here at Hunts,
This period, in its 29 years, what are the top three things that you've done?
well, I have coached all sports for the last 25 years. Since I got here in Hunts, I have become lead mentor in the Phoenix program. I have put on several events here. So much.
That's correct. So much. You're right. You're right. But tell me, what changed you?
Well, I thank God changed me first, right? Start seeing things different and for me to start acting different.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that I've been around, I think that's been the biggest change. I stopped hanging with the doves and this, that, and other. And believe it or not, I started hanging with security, a lot of security. And it's showing me different little things in my life and how they incorporate things in their lives. And I think that just carried on. You know, I used to hurt a lot of people, and I saw that wasn't very becoming. If I could tell you a story, they had a lieutenant in Angola used to come out with my football team practice every day. And one day he told me what the warden just said, that I ain't S, right? And if we laughed, and I said, well, why you say that? He said, because you're not a leader, right? I had a lot of influence. He said, you're not a leader. And I said, what you mean I'm not a leader? He said, you might not be doing that no more, but the guys on your football team sell drugs. Guys on your football team sell cell phones and this, that, and other, right? And I said, but that's not me. He said, but you could tell a leader, bro, by the minute he leaves. And I went back to the dome that night and I pondered that. And he was correct, you know, so from that point on, I started trying to lead the right way. And it's just been rolling downhill since, okay? Leading the right way.
Yeah, I read that. I like that you had everybody on the football team that didn't have a high saver GED. They had to enroll in GED. Yeah, you started showing some leadership. That's, I get that. Go ahead.
Yeah, you had to sign a contract with me.
Okay.
You know, at this time, sports was big. You know, Warden came in with boxing, with football, baseball. It was big. So guys would come on your yard, right? You get them out of trouble, and they'll come on your yard and stay a week or two, and then they'll go to the out of camp. They'll go somewhere else, Walden Hospital. They'll go somewhere else where they fit in. But if you came and we help you, Walden Stag, if we help you, right? You signed the contract where that you was gonna go to class. It was on and off the field. You had to go to class because lifers couldn't get in classes at this time. And we found a way where we could sneak them in. So you had to go to class. If you ain't had a GED, half of them guys with juvenile license. And everybody plays me home now because of juvenile bill. But you had to sign a contract. If you got in trouble, you couldn't go nowhere else and play football. And that came down from Warden Kane all the way down to coach in the gym. And everybody agreed to it.
Good. That's good to hear. Some of those things are still in place today. I understand.
Well, I don't know. I'm not in Angola. A lot of guys on left. They don't play football no more. So I don't know if they still incorporating that.
Okay, I want to take you back to 1993 for let's revisit that man. Because you got out of jail on 10/3 of 93 and you got arrested on 10/5 of 1993. I read in the report that there's one interpretation is that you knew that your child, your baby's, your daughter's mother was seeing somebody else. And then there's another version of the story that said you didn't know she was seeing somebody else. And it was just a surprise thing. So set the record straight today.
I didn't know who she was seeing.
Did you know she was seeing somebody?
As far as me and Mr. Norton, I didn't know Mr. Norton. I didn't even know his name.
No, sir. I know. I asked, did you know that she was seeing someone else?
Yes, she hadn't indicated that she was seeing someone
Okay.
else. Yes, ma'am. And well, from that point on, when I got out, I went to get my daughter. And that's where the confrontation went on with me and Mr. Norton. And I ended up shooting Mr. Norton. Been in jail ever since. But I mean, and it was senseless. If I got to put my narration on it, all these years now, it was senseless. It was a senseless death. You know, nothing that happened that night at that door should have caused me to hurt that man. And I'm sorry for that. You know, I regret it. Right now today, every time I pray for my kids, I pray for his. I didn't know he had kids. And this will really kill me, is why. When I got in the parish and got his obituary, right? And I'm reading what they're saying. And it's like, he had 3 kids at this time. And I'm like, wow, because I'm high on the kid thing. And I never knew. I never knew he had kids. I still got the obituary. It's like yesterday, you know, so I tell my kids, when we pray together, you dig, I pray for his, you dig? Because like, we're gonna always be connected, you know. It's 29 some more years ago, but it's just like yesterday to me. It's not like I forgot it, it's well gone. Washed up under the bridge or something like that. No, man.
Yes, you're right. So my question to you is, that's one of the clouds that's been over your sentence, that you went there intentionally, you had made some threats. I mean, that was just your intention to kill. What do you say to that?
No, man. No, man. I went there with 2 of my cousin and my nephew. That's where the weapons come from. The weapons come from them. I ain't bring no weapons over there. I was going there and I picked them up on the corner. And no, I know I made some threats. I wrote the letter. That was, you know, I was.
Okay, you do admit to making the threats in the letters, okay.
Yes,
So
man.
that part is correct, okay. I just want that cleared up. It's one in my mind.
Yes, man. Yeah, I wrote the threats and the letters and this, that, and other. I wrote 100 letters, like, you know, and
Yeah.
I never imagined that it would happen like that. I was trying to scare them, you know, that's all that was.
You was trying to what?
I was trying to scare Sonya, that's all that was. I ain't even know they stayed together. I didn't know I was gonna find that, which I found out in recent years, just the whole story and how it went. And no, I had no intention to find nobody dead when I went there that day.
And how old was your daughter at that time? Do you remember?
She was about, what, 2.5, 3 years old.
And she saw all that. Your daughter
That's
saw
what they,
all that. Yeah, she saw all that.
yes, ma'am.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you for answering my questions.
Mr. Rusher.
Morning, Mr. Hayes, how are you?
How you doing, Mr. Roche?
Good.
I'm-
You said you got out of prison. How long had you been in prison when you got out in October?
2 years.
So you've been in jail 2 years. And you said you wanted to get your daughter.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Did you have custody of your daughter?
No, Sean used to bring my daughter up there like twice a month. You know, it wasn't like we ain't had no.
Why were you going to get your daughter if you didn't have custody?
Well, that was already discussed, that I was supposed to come and get. I hadn't talked to Sonya a couple of times before I actually left to go to the house to get her. And when I last talked to her, she said she was at a cousin's birthday party, right? And I come over and get her later that night.
Mr. Hayes,
Yes, sir.
it's against the law to communicate with the victims. But if you could talk to the victims, what would you tell the Norton family?
Well, I will first tell them, sir, that this 29 years is way too late for me to be apologizing to them. I should apologize to them when this first happened. But I was a little immature boy at that time. And man, from the bottom of my heart, you dig, like I said, I carry this pain with me every day too. You know, and I understand their feelings for me. I would just ask them, you know, ask God to one day forgive me if they possibly can. You know, and I'm sorry. I mean, I got words I just can't explain right now for them. A whole lot of things have been done and said over these years, and that's not right. But it's too long, I know in my heart, it's too long for it to be 29 years later, for me to actually be apologizing to the people. You know, I remember Miss Celestine coming to court like it was yesterday, showing me a picture. And it was a picture of, I think it was her and Don. I didn't know it at the time. And I haven't forgotten anything. I haven't forgotten anything. And I know they hurt me. My family hurt, their family hurt. And I just hope one day we could be friends.
Mr. Hayes, it's never too late to say, I'm sorry, I'm remorseful, I regret it. It's never too late. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. One word alone, what can you add?
Yes, Mr. Renata, first, my heart always goes out to the victims, in these cases, I hate for their loss. Mr. Hayes, mentioned that, some of the things that he was proud of that he accomplished since he's been incarcerated, but he failed to mention that being the lead mentor of the Phoenix program, what that is. Phoenix program is a behavior management program that's in the cell block. And Darrin, he volunteers to live in the cell block with the mentees to help them through their process. And he's helped a lot of guys. He should be proud of the guys that he's helped out of that cell block that are successful now. So just want to commend him on that and bring that to y'all.
Thank you. Do we want to introduce the family members who've just entered the room?
Say your name and your relation.
Oh, Darrin Matthews and his daughter.
Pastor Lionel Roberts of Holy Anointed House of Prayer.
Right, and will either of you be speaking on his behalf?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, now's the time to do so. We are ready to hear from you, sir.
Okay. Like I said, my name is Pastor Lionel Roberts of Holy Anointed House of Prayer, where I've been pastoring. This is my 24th year. I've known Mr. Hayes pretty much maybe like 40-something years. I've been communicating with him off and on over the years. And there's several programs that we want to implement. God will, if this is successful today and he is released. Some of the programs that he's actually been doing up here at Hunts and things that we want to work on one accord. Lord will, once he's released in the city of New Orleans, where we know the crime rate is over the top. So we're hoping that, we're hoping that, he can come and kind of right some of the wrongs, and be of assistance to us to help some of these young men in our community.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. And Darrin, would you like to say anything?
Probably start crying, but I just want to say for the past 30 years that my father been incarcerated, I feel like he has really changed. I always had a relationship with him since I was young, so I always talked to him, and I also heard a lot of the bad stories, but I never let that get to me because I know that my dad is a good person. He's a good man, and he deserved a second chance. And and I also want to say this about my daddy being in jail. I got into law enforcement, so I've been working in Orleans Parish as a deputy sheriff for 11 years now, and I always treat the inmate, with compassion, and I talk to them because I also know how it feels for their family on the outside, and I try to tell them, when you get out, do right, things like that. So part of the reason I got into law enforcement was because of my dad. So, I thought he'd probably say, don't do that, but he says, go forward, go forward. So he said, I met a lot of great deputies, a lot of great rank up here, and he said, you can, achieve things. So I just, hope that everything goes good today.
Well, good for you. Thank you for the work that you do. And I appreciate that y'all made it here this morning. Could we hear from the parole project, Mr. Myers?
Yes, good morning, Terry Myers, Louisiana Parole Project. We're prepared to assist Mr. Hayes in his reentry, utilizing all the resources of our program. He will have our case management. You will have the coaching and mentoring in issues like social norms, consumer skills, financial management and training. He has a very strong long-term support plan, housing. Mr. Hayes is a leader now. He is ready. I think if we could say anything about him beyond all the accomplishments that he's had during his incarceration, all the impact that he's had on the people during his incarceration, he's ready. He's ready to come home. He is ready to be that citizen, that good citizen that he knows he wants to be and should have been. He's got the strong support of Parole Project, strong support of his family. And I would just ask this board to grant Mr. Hayes his parole today.
Great, thank you. Okay, we'll hear from the opposition now. I know we have Mr. Kevin Noten. Would you like to go first?
Sure. Come on. Yeah, that don't do nothing. My blood brother, everything. That don't do nothing. He should have thought about that 30 years ago. We ran my brother down the side. He pumped bullets in my brother laying on that ground like a dog. I don't give what he accomplished. It don't do nothing for me. You know, he said that's premeditated. He came around and did exactly what he said he was going to do. And I told my brother, "Now you got killed. Some brothers lose and impress at you, but get you a gun." But see, for me, I'd have dealt with it. I'd have had you. But my brother was a humble guy. He could have been Martin Luther King. He shot a humble guy down for nothing, purely because he was dating his ex-girlfriend. He came in with that intention, but that don't do nothing for me. I don't be what nobody said on it. That don't do nothing for me. Zero, nada. I don't do nothing for me. So I pray y'all leave him right there where he is. Don't let him out, because I talked to the lady, but was dating his ex-girlfriend. She's afraid of death right now. She's afraid of death. She was born in the country. She said, "I'm scared. I'm scared. I'm scared." That's what big I understand. I'm wrong. But that don't do nothing for me. I don't care who talking, what they say. My brother, like I said, my brother could have been Martin Luther King. He coming here, Stella this and Stella that. That don't do nothing for me. Nothing.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Donna Celestine?
It's the fact that his daughter can sit behind him and have tears in her eyes with the promise that her daddy could possibly be coming home any day now. Well, I don't have that. My dad was gone, taken from me 30 years ago. I didn't grow up, I didn't get the privilege of growing up being able to touch my dad. She still was able to go visit her dad whenever she was given a chance. I didn't get that privilege. Also, I did write a letter, but I'm pretty sure you all read the letter. My dad was taken from me October 3rd. His second chance, it was given to him October 3rd, the morning he killed my dad. That was his second chance. And the way he utilized that second chance, 3 days before my brother's birthday, I don't feel any remorse for him. Because as I hear stories, I was sick at the time. As I hear stories about this man sitting in court during trial, laughing about what happened. I had begged for his life, just as he's sitting here begging for his. And what did he get? Numerous shots to the head. And I don't feel remorse. I feel that you can sit up here and say what you want, just to get what you want. But once you're back in the environment, you're gonna become the same person.
And the same as, I'm a nurse as well. I deal with IV drug users all the time. What happens, you can rehab a patient, you can rehab a drug patient. You can do, but once they get back into that same environment, they become that same person. I don't believe this is a changed man at all. My son, who's 13, my brother, his grandkids, none of us got the privilege of growing up with my dad. None of us. And I don't feel that I don't even believe that we sit here discussing it. This was premeditated. He wrote letters home, and for him to sit up here and say that he didn't know who my dad is. I mean, all of the evidence shows he knows exactly what he wrote letters home. He did exactly what he set out to do, was kill my dad. And did he have remorse? No, he doesn't have remorse now. He just wants what he wants, was to get out, to be with his family, which I don't give the privilege of doing. Like, we sit here and discuss programs that he's been a part of. You know, I'm not impressed. What programs did my dad get a chance to be a part of? My dad was taken away from me at the age of 28. He didn't even make it to 30 years old. You know what program my dad is a part of? Program Providence. You know, I don't feel like he should get a second chance. He was given one. He was given multiple chances, and he came home and he did what he wanted to do. And like I said again, my son, he never met my dad. My brothers grew up without a dad, you know, so I don't feel remorse. You know, I want him to get this, feel the same way as he felt when my dad was laying on the ground begging for his life. I don't feel anything.
Thank you, Ms. Elston. Mr. Hayes, before we turn it over to Mr. Nordike, is there a statement you'd like to make to the board? Oh, I'm sorry, I missed somebody. Miss Bessie Murdoch would like to speak. I apologize, Mr. Hayes, stand on.
My name is Jesse Murdoch, close to the family, and from the beginning. I'm really gonna reiterate everything everybody else said. It was premeditated. He said he didn't have any intention, he was trying to scare. It didn't happen like that. It didn't happen like that. When you're behind them balls, you're gonna get there, you're gonna sit in front of this counter and say exactly what you need to say to come home. And that's exactly what he's doing. And not only that, I'm not gonna get too far ahead of myself here, but just sitting here listening to the panel, I know y'all all have to be open about this here, and a parole board. But it seems to me that y'all already have this planned out. From what we seeing and what we hearing, they're not gonna say it. I'm pretty sure y'all gonna release it, because that's what it looked like from where I'm sitting. But I just want to ask y'all one question. If that was y'all family member, if that was your daughter, your son, how would you feel? Would you be feeling as open as you are right now because of the job or the position that you have? No. So I feel the same way the family feel. I have no remorse for this man. None at all. And I think all this is just a plight. And that y'all gonna do what y'all want to do anyway, no matter where we're here or not. So just remember, y'all have kids too. And you would want this happen to your child, and you would want the person that killed your child to come home with you. He didn't get the death penalty, but he should be able to come back on the street. They gave him a second chance, sir. And he blew it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right, Mr. Hayes, is there a statement?
Yes, ma'am. To the family, I do have remorse. For the family, I do feel y'all pain. If you want to believe it or not, I have cried many nights behind your daddy. I have your brother, your friend, and it's not like it seems. I'm sitting here scared to death for my life. I don't see this board as it's already done, that they done made up their mind, I have no indication of that. I'm sorry for the hurt I caused your family. The rest of my life, if I have to pay for it, I will pay for it. Y'all don't understand that man, I'm truly sorry for what I did that night. But I was an immature little boy. You're taking a lot of things and change. I'm a better person now. I can't see me going back out in that world. I don't even think like a criminal no more. Let's stone a criminal. But you got to get to know me. That's all I would ask, that God give you all the chance to get to know me. But I am remorseful. And if you know any kind of person I am, I don't speak just to be speaking. Tell people things just to be telling them. We 30 years down the road now. 30 years down the road. I just hope one day y'all could find y'all heart some room to forgive me. That's all, Ms. Renata.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hayes. Mr. Nordine.
Thank you. I have sort of a unique perspective on this. I've known Cornbread since Angola days. His nickname is Cornbread, by the way, and has been for as long as I've known him. I've known Cornbread since Angola, and he was a trustee then. He came to Hunt to help out and became a trustee almost immediately there. So he's been a trustee for many, many years. The arc of his rehabilitation has been up the entire time I've known him. You heard the story about the contract for football. That's the Cornbread that I knew at Angola. And that is the essence of the Cornbread that I've known ever since I've known him at Hunt also. I've known him at many lifers banquets and other events. He's been a trustee for 20 years or close to it, all total. He's gotten every course, taken every course that's available to him. He's a lead social mentor. You heard Warden Boardlawn talk about the things he's done. There are a couple other couple other things that I think need to be told to the board. And that is, and Cornbread hadn't mentioned this, and it sort of shows something about his rehabilitation and his personality that he didn't. He is in remission from very serious colon cancer and has gone through that with grace and the ability to handle it under the pressure cooker of prison. So I think that needs to be thrown out there as well. Every time I go to the local grocery store, almost every time, I run into East Baton Rouge Parish District Attorney Hiller Moore at the grocery store, who asks me, when is Cornbread getting out? If you got a parole date or you got a pardon date on Cornbread? And I keep telling Hiller, no, I don't. But apparently Hiller's got plans for Cornbread too, for some of his programs. So I think he's got an outstanding reentry program with the Parole Project. He's got a great subsequent program, and he'll go to live in Mandeville. He'll be away from the Orleans area. So I would ask the board to grant him parole on whatever terms and conditions the board feels appropriate. But I think after 30 years, it's time. He's done everything asked of him. And as Ms. Wise pointed out, he's got an outstanding disciplinary record, and he has shown great remorse. And Mr. Rocha, you're right. It's never too late to show remorse, and he's done so. So I would ask for parole for Cornbread for Darrin Hayes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. All right. Yes.
Mr. Hayes,
Yes, ma'am.
to the victims' family, my condolences to you. There's just no words, for me to express the loss that you've experienced at this man's hands. One of the challenges when I was appointed to the parole, well, I'm a retired probation parole officer, the training we got said, look at what they have done since the crime, because the crime doesn't change. And when we look at what you've done since the crime, that's why Louisiana has a full parole and pardon board. This is our task. You did a great harm. Right? You healed, with the programs, took advantage of what DOC had to offer, and now you're helping others. And that's all we can ask from any human being. When they've done a great harm, they've healed themselves, and they've been helping others. And your record demonstrates that. We have, in the paperwork we got, we have about 3 letters from wardens commending you on what you've done consistently. Your trustee record, helping to other offenders. It's clear what you've done, how you've accomplished. So my vote is to grant to the Louisiana Parole Project for a period of time that's deemed appropriate by Parole Project and your probation parole officer. They decide when you leave Parole Project. And you are to perform community service 3 months after your release, 8 hours. You're gonna do more, but at least at a minimum 8 hours a month of community service, 3 months after release. And because the Parole Project is gonna meet all the other needs that you have. And you are to have no contact with the victim's family. I know it's a large family. It's a kind of thing where you're in a grocery store and you find that one of them was there, you leave your buggy and come back another time. You give them that space. But that is my vote. Best wishes to you.
Thank you, Mr. Rusher.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Hayes, and I especially want to talk to the Norton family. I want to thank you for coming. It took a lot of courage. And this process deals with the victims and the offenders. In my job as a victims advocate on this board is to take care of the victims. And Mr. Hayes, I see the writing on the wall. The writing is on the wall. So I'm going to vote to grant your request, but under the following conditions. Condition number 1, you're to have a curfew from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. You ought to attend NAAA meetings at the direction of your parole officer. You will determine whether or not you need to go. It's those things. You need to do. You ought to do 8 hours of community service. You ought to have no contact. You ought to have no contact with the following persons or families. You ought to have no contact with the Donald Norton's family. Mr. Hayes, no contact means no personal contact, no passing by a home of one of the Norton's family, no social media, no text, no telephone, no letter. When I say, and I'm giving a sheet of paper to your parole officer, when I say no contact, I mean no contact with any member of the Donald Norton's family. You understand?
Yes, sir.
You're to have no contact with Tara Matthews Williams. You're to have no contact with Tara Matthews Williams or any member of her immediate family except for your biological children and grandchildren. Do we understand each other?
Yes, sir.
The only persons you can have contact with is your biological children and your biological grandchildren. You ought to have a permanent residency in St. Tammany Parish. You may not request any other residence except St. Tammany Parish. You ought to have electronic monitoring for the first 5 years after you release. And probation and parole will supply that monitoring. So we want to know where you are for the first 5 years after your release. And the last condition is you may not enter the following parishes: Orleans, Jefferson, and St. Bernard. You may not enter these parishes for any reason. You understand?
Yes, sir.
Orleans, Jefferson, and St. Bernard parishes are the primary places where the Norton family lives. You may not enter these parishes for any reason. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Hayes. I voted for you at your pardon hearing. I still support that decision, so my vote today is to grant. I'd just like to ask one exception to the special conditions imposed by Mr. Roche, and that would be the restriction on Orleans, Jefferson, and St. Bernard, maybe an exception for his own medical emergency that's documented.
Madam Chairman, there's other places where you can get medical assistance. I'd like to see him banned from Orleans, Jefferson, and St. Bernard.
All right, I will concur with that restriction and would ask for consideration maybe at the meeting. So today, Mr. Hayes, your parole has been granted with all the conditions. You'll get a copy of those conditions. Good luck to you. Sorry, we wish you well.
Thank you.
Now, this hearing would be remiss if I didn't bring up the big pink elephant in the room. Maybe is that he is the father of Tyrann Matthews, aka Honey Badger, who is just a complete superstar, and also I think, well, a superstar football player who is so, I think, admired by so many because of, you know, the idea that he's 5'9" and a successful NFL player, and that's why he's nicknamed the Honey Badger, because he's small in stature but formidable, and he's also overcome so much diversity with his upbringing. And you know, if you're wondering why at the beginning Miss Wise was bringing up football and how that had been mentioned. Now, it was interesting. I was wondering if he was going to show up to the parole hearing, because he did recently sign a contract with New Orleans Saints. So he's back in Louisiana, but it is the NFL season, and you know, they do have strict training protocols, and who knows, but there's for the, you know, it's not fair to judge or ask questions or wonder, but there was a lot. I know in the earlier stages where we can just go through some of that information, but here's a tweet after he won the Super Bowl, where he actually tweeted, he said, "I can't wait for my dad to call me from prison." I know that in Hunt Correctional, which is the prison we're very familiar with. So this was February 3rd, 2020. And they say here, you know, his father has been in prison his entire life. And doesn't have chance for parole, but they're wrong, as we know, because his sentence was recommended to be commuted by the governor, and that happened before we were able to record these hearings, before they were on YouTube. Otherwise, we would have that commutation sentence hearing for you to share. But we also have here, which was interesting, that his attorney, who we've seen so many times at other hearings, mentioned his nickname is Cornbread. And sure enough, thank you, Richard, for finding this article. This was written in 2012. And it talks about the adversity that he had to overcome. But before he was known as a honey badger, he actually called himself Little Bread, which just shows I think the attachment that children have with their son, even though it goes on to say that he had no relationship with his son and with his father, none at all. But he still gave himself the nickname of Little Bread after his father, who was known as Cornbread. And it goes on to say, yeah, he was only 5'8", 175 pounds, but he was a star. And, but still it was never simple for him. He actually got kicked out of LSU for failing tests. They think he was smoking the devil's lettuce. And he got demoted to different school, and he had to work his way up again. And he did, and he's done incredibly well. And it's really, I think, cool to see that he's probably going to finish off his career in Louisiana. He signed a $18.5 million guaranteed money contract with the Saints. In 2020.